Before anybody gets really ticked off, hey, remember this, we made this video months ago because Elliot Friedman was very direct, very blunt, and very much on the record when he said that he feels if the Leafs disappoint in 2021, they will trade either one of Mitch Marner or William Nylander. And you know what? Hey, if this year was not a disappointment, I don't know what disappointing really means. Because the Toronto Maple Leafs, after blowing the 3-1 lead, eventually losing in the first round, are in a position now where all of these guys, the aging vets like Thornton and Simmons, the top dogs like Marner and Matthews, the defense, and not really the goaltending, these are all under super hot water with the fanbase, and as a result, you have yourselves a whole bunch of discourse that has come on as to whether or not the Leafs would, could, or even should trade any of the big four. Now, we know they're not going to do that, right? Kyle Dubas, Shanahan, they all came out, they said they're not going to do that, but hey, you take a look at the fan responses to what happened in the postseason. Matthews is in a position where a lot of people are kind of saying, okay, you could kind of see he was trying out there, don't really want to put the loss on him. Tavares was in a position where he literally wasn't playing the whole series, so he kind of gets a pass too, plus you're not going to trade that contract, it's just impossible at this point. William Nylander is in a position where the guy was legitimately a beast. He's the only guy who could score goals, along with Jason Spezza, I guess, against the Canadiens. But hey, because he is the cheapest of the four, because he was the best of the four, there's no reason to say that William Nylander is the guy to get traded. Which leaves us with Marner. We've already made our video talking about the entire drama going on with Mitch Marner and how he is in a spot where people are ticked off at what he said to the media, ticked off at his performance, yada yada yada, prima donna, bratty, all this stuff that's been said about him. You can check out the video if you haven't been paying attention to that scoop. But now, we take our focus away from the Leafs and onto NBC Sports because their San Jose Sharks division published an article earlier this week that talks about the Sharks and how they should target these 5 players who have been eliminated from the playoffs. I'll leave a link in the description to this article as written by Marcus White, and they talk about the San Jose Sharks as a team that has themselves a whole bunch of stuff to do. They've got some high draft picks, they've got themselves a whole bunch of opportunity here. And so the writer highlights these players whom the San Jose Sharks could acquire to improve their team. The first entry here, Mitch Marner and William Nylander. Let's read this here together, shall we, and go over what exactly it is this writer is proposing. The Maple Leafs will insist that they won't trade one of their big four, but with $40 million tied up in Marner, Nylander, Matthews, and Tavares, something has to give. Right? Matthews isn't going anywhere, and neither is John. That leaves Marner with a $10.9 million salary cap hit for 4 more seasons, and Nylander with a $6.96 million for 3 more as potential candidates, as neither have any trade protection. The former struggled for his 3rd consecutive postseason, while the latter has faced criticism for a supposed lack of consistency. Both players would have led the Sharks in scoring this year, though, and San Jose should really press Toronto's brain trust on its willingness to part with either player. Okay, I mean, you're taking a look at William Nylander. Sure, people have bugged on him for consistency issues in the past, but the problem with bringing it up in this way at this time is that William Nylander is coming off of one of the most impressive showcases of his entire career. This guy was the only Maple Leaf that was out there consistently scoring goals against Montreal, so this is the worst time to point out his consistency issues as fuel to whether or not they could trade him. Given the Leafs' cap situation, is there a hockey trade to be made with one of the Sharks' young wingers, and, if needed, some draft capital? Timo Meier at $6 million and Kevin Labanc at $4.725 are cheaper and would allow the Maple Leafs to clear cap space to address other areas on the roster. Wilson can give Toronto something to think about. And man, you're not gonna get that done. If you want to talk about hockey trades, are you implying a 1-for-1 or a 2-for-2 Nylander and Marner for Labanc and Meier? No, sorry, that is not getting done in any universe here. If you want to go hockey trade and you're not doing 2-for-2, it means you're doing 1-for-1. Okay, how is that gonna go down? William Nylander for Timo Meier? I don't know, man, that kind of feels like a little bit of a lateral move, and in fact, Timo Meier was worse than Nylander was this season, so is it really that lateral of a move? Plus, I mean, Nylander's making only $900,000 more. I would take the extra point production if it costs me $900,000, especially with the way that Nylander really came into play in the postseason. If he can be that clutch going into the next few seasons, then hey, I'd rather keep that around for $900,000 more than Timo Meier. As for Kevin Labanc, we knew that he was up and down. He had a really good season, and then he signed that one-year, $1 million contract that kind of blew up in his face because he didn't really perform well afterwards. And he's in a spot now where making $4.7 million, he's got himself 28 points. And you know what? If you want to talk about Nylander, maybe Marner, a hockey trade over here, when you take a look at Marner and Nylander, these two guys have such a high amount of status on the Maple Leafs. These guys have so much expectation from the Maple Leafs fan base and the media here. You take a look at the value that these guys have and they could bring to a Toronto Maple Leafs squad. If you swap any of these guys for Kevin Labanc or Timo Meier, I'm sorry, but you're absolutely losing that trade, even with the money involved. I guess there's draft capital in here that's mentioned in the article as potential trading chips, but hey, they also bring up a hockey trade, and hockey trade is 1-for-1. It's 2-for-2, I guess. Not even really too sure if that counts, but a 1-for-1 hockey trade would not work if you're going ahead with these players. I'd rank these players in terms of their value at the moment: Nylander, Marner, Meier, Labanc. And sure, I could go out there and say that Mitch Marner is more valuable than Timo Meier, despite the fact that he had a bad playoffs, because Marner is still literally the top point guy for the Leafs in the regular season. Sure, it's different hockey. Sure, it's a different breed out there when you play in the regular season versus the playoffs, but Marner, he just hasn't unlocked it yet, bro. He just hasn't unlocked it yet, and whether or not you're going to say he has the ability to do that, at the end of the day, these guys were drafted in the same year, 2015. Meier was at 9th overall, Marner was at 4th. You really see that as a trade you're winning if you're Toronto? No, you're absolutely not. So, unless you're adding a whole bunch of draft capital, which the Leafs won't even really care about anyway because they're trying to go out there and win this year. I mean, you could say, oh, give the top 10 pick to Toronto and they can trade that pick to another team for a roster forward that fills out the rest of the salary, because that's something you need to think about as well. That's a little bit too deep into the hypothetical here, and I feel like just the bare bones trade idea on the surface is not good enough. Sure, Nylander or Marner could go to San Jose, it's possible, but for the assets listed here, I don't think it works out. Because even though Meier could be a star, I really do like Timo Meier. If it's a hockey trade you're talking about, it's not working here. So talk to me in the comments what you think about this entire idea over here, whether or not the Maple Leafs could trade Nylander or Marner to San Jose. Nylander is absolutely not going anywhere, in my opinion. Marner, if he does go somewhere, I don't know if it would be to San Jose for these kinds of assets, but I mean, anything can happen, right? Friedman did say it all those months ago that he feels like one of Nylander or Marner would be traded if Toronto craps the bed again in 2021, which they did. It's just with hindsight, Nylander was so much better than Marner was in the playoffs, and for a fraction of the cost. So talk to me in the comments, do you see Toronto and all of them making this kind of trade? If you're Toronto, though, if there's a trade opportunity coming along for Timo Meier and Kevin Labanc, and either one of these guys is involved, is there anything the Sharks could add to get you to say yes? You could just go all franchise mode and be like, okay, 2021 first, 2022 first, 2023 first, and then we'll say yes. But come on, let's be realistic here. Is that top 10 pick in the draft this year enough to make you say yes? Or do you need to add a little bit more? Maybe add a Ryan Merkley, a prospect as well? It's really, really hard to, in theory, win a Marner trade or win a Nylander trade if you're the team that's giving up Marner or Nylander. So let me know in the comments what you think. I hope you enjoyed this video. Josh Rolls 99, and bye.